Okay, so day one of free agency's in the books. From a Chargers fan perspective, a little underwhelming. I think a lot of people expected with a tremendous amount of cap space we'd go out there, make some big splashes, and we didn't exactly do that. I think we made some smart signings. I'm not upset about most of the signings that we did make. Could be happier, that's for sure. Could have allocated money a little bit more towards some top end prospects. But at the end of the day, I've said it for weeks now, months now. We had a tremendous amount of holes to fill, and I have no problem filling them with consistently quality people and filling out that roster at a higher level. Last year, we filled a lot of people with pure bargain bin contracts. This year, I think that we have the opportunity to fill them with mid-level contracts, but we still have a tremendous amount of holes to fill. So after I've kind of settled down and saw how everything played out, I'm not upset about the signings that we've made. So let's do a quick recap. Obviously, in the 11th hour, like 5 minutes before free agency open, I think it was like an hour, but still, we re-signed Khalil Mack. That's huge. We couldn't let him hit the open market. It doesn't sound like he ever was going to, but still huge to have that signing off of our back before we got everything rolling. $18 million a year is exactly where I projected him, 3-4 weeks ago. Started to look like it was going to be more like $22-23 million, so I was really excited to see him come in at 18. So that was massive. Obviously, we had already re-signed Elijah Molden, but might as well throw that out there. So signings today. Dane Jackson signing doesn't move the needle for me at all. I really wanted to invest into a high-tier corner. Not getting DJ Reed was a huge bummer for me. Byron Murphy was my next guy that I would have liked to retain or bring in. Obviously, that didn't happen. I believe he re-signed with the Vikings. So that was kind of a bummer to see. Dane Jackson doesn't move the needle to me. He's a little more upside to me than Christian Fulton, but he also still makes a tremendous amount of mistakes. I think of him as Walmart version of Trevon Diggs. He's all or nothing. He makes a lot of mistakes because of it. So don't love it. I don't mind it as Cam Hart insurance. I really don't want him to be CB2. That's with assuming Cam Hart's at CB1. And then we have, what's face playing in the slot? So, Tarheeb. And so if that's the case, I'm really not very happy about the signing, but I still think we can go out there and get another guy. And if he's cornerback 4, I like that significantly more. Contract to me at $6 million isn't bad. I feel like that's about what he's worth. So I'm happy with the price point, just not in love with the player. J.K. Scott and Bradley Bozeman, those were kind of the sore subject ones for most people. I don't mind Bradley Bozeman. I just don't want him to be my starter. So once we get the contract numbers on that, if it's really around that 2 years, $6 million contract, $3 million per year, perfectly fine with it. Exactly what J.K. Scott had. I don't love the J.K. Scott signing, but I don't know how you upgrade at punter. Punters don't really become available. You can draft one and see if they develop, and his contract, it's not like you can't move off of it at $3 million per year, but it keeps the special teams intact. Bozeman, I really do like as a depth piece, glue guy, older player. It doesn't hurt my feelings as long as we get those contract numbers and they're really where they should be. If I see a $3 million deal at $16 million or something like that, I'm going to be pretty freaking upset, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. And then the bigger ones started happening. So obviously we lost Poona Ford, but we kept Tart. I think that value over replacement for those two isn't really a huge deal. I think that Tart brought a tremendous amount of value as a rotational guy. I don't mind him as my defensive tackle too. $5.5 million per year. Hopefully Boygby shows progress in the offseason and we can utilize him a little bit more in rotation. But obviously we still need another defensive tackle, whether that comes in the draft. We really want to invest early. I don't want to pigeonhole ourselves to have to do that, though, so I would much prefer to get a guy in the 3rd, 4th round. I think there's a tremendous amount of talent, but you still got to go sign someone big out there, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then the Najee Harris signing. Most of us didn't want Najee Harris. Most of us, now that we've seen the contract, are pretty okay with Najee Harris. Now, I keep saying up to $9.5 or $9.75 million. He's a $10 million running back. Essentially, but I'm curious to see what his base salary and his salary structure is. Like, is it go over 1,000 yards? Is it average over 4 yards per carry? How many touchdowns is it? What are the incentive-laden portions of this contract, and what is his base salary? If his base salary is $7-8 million, that really doesn't hurt my feelings. It could even be lower than that. And so at $8 million is kind of what I'm pretending he has right now, with $1 million bonus and $500,000 bonus, and we'll see where that kind of falls out. But Najee Harris is a 1,000-yard rusher who doesn't miss games, and he doesn't fumble the ball. He's exactly what we wanted from Gus Edwards that we didn't get from Gus Edwards. I'm fine with it. That is exactly how Greg Roman wants to play this offense. Now, I'm not fine with it if we don't invest in running back in any other spot. Now, that's a problem. That's a problem that I'm not okay with. I mean, you can go fill the roster with Kenneth Gainwells and stuff, but I want an elusive lightning type of back to complement Najee Harris from the draft. I think you look at what the Lions have done, and I know that everybody keeps talking about that, but he could be the David Montgomery signing. They paid David Montgomery good money on, I believe, a 3-year deal when they brought him in. He was the number one free agent signing dollars value-wise that offseason, and then they still went and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs without even hesitating, and they used him incredibly well. So I would not be surprised if that's the route that we want to go. I would love for us to do that. Obviously, a $10 million back says we're not going to go trade up for Ashton Jeanty. My dream has ended, but that's okay. I don't think it deters us from drafting Omarion Hampton at 22 if he's the BPA. I just have a hard time imagining Hampton as the best player available. I don't see it. I know a lot of people do, but I like Omarion Hampton. He's just right there in that same running back tier as all the other guys behind him. He's not a tier above to me. And so I think it more so tells us who we might go draft. Like Damian Martinez was a back I was really starting to like for us for this play style. Now I don't think we go get a Damian Martinez. I think we're looking more of Trevion Henderson, Dylan Sampson in the second round. Maybe if we trade up in the third, we can go get one of those guys. Yeah, I just don't think we're going to go get a Caleb Johnson or an Omarion Hampton or a Damian Martinez. I think we're looking more at the Devin Neals of the world and everything else. And I mean, it's not like we use screen passes, so let's not assume that anything of that could be utilized in the game because Greg Roman's still our offensive coordinator. So I don't want to pretend like we would use that, even though I would love to. But like a DJ Giddens, I really like. Yeah, in the if you kind of let running back fall a little bit later, but I would really like to see us still invest an early draft pick. I wouldn't mind trading down in the second round, trading up in the third round. I like that middle range, and so we'll see how things kind of fall out. But what I want to look at is how much cap space we have left, which should be right around that $50 million range without cutting Trey Pipkins. And we can essentially just cut him to make room for the rookie class. And so I think there's still a tremendous amount of talent out there. I think most of it's going to go on day 2, so I would expect us and really hope that we're active tomorrow. I guess today by the time you guys are watching this, but we really need to capitalize today. Now, if we did most of these signings or a signing of at every position at pretty close to it, I'd be thrilled. $50 million, I don't know if you can necessarily pull it all off. You can get tricky with your structures and still make it happen, but I think we have a tremendous amount of opportunity to make this happen. So I want to kind of run through my guys by position. I'll rank them in position, but I'm not going to rank them by position as far as what my priorities are, and we'll kind of go from there. So number 1 is Jonathan Allen at the defensive tackle position. Losing Poona Ford, I still really want to go get that veteran presence. I would love to get a guy in the draft class because I obviously haven't seen much of Igboigbe. None of us have. So if the coaching staff really sees that development in there, maybe you let it fall a little bit, but there's a tremendous amount of talent at defensive tackle in this draft class. So I wouldn't mind getting one of those guys in the mid to later rounds, give him a couple years to develop. Tart's still only on a 1-year deal. But Jonathan Allen gives us a little bit of stability. Now, he's not going to be as cheap. I don't know. I think he was set to make 15.5 in the last year of his contract this year. Is he going to demand that much in the free agent market? Probably not. Is he going to demand more than Poona did? Probably. So we'll see. If he's in that 10 to 12 range, I'm pretty happy about it. So I would love to go out there and get Jonathan Allen on a 2 to 3 year, probably a 2-year, backload the contract a little bit with not as much guaranteed money in that second year if that's something that we can make happen. I would love it. Second position is corner. I really want to address corner specifically with a veteran that I know can come in and be a starter. And the only name that really jumps out left to me is Russell Douglas. I would have loved DJ Reed. I would have loved to spend a little bit of money there, but we're past that now. Russell Douglas is 31. I don't think he's going to demand a huge contract, but he's absolutely a starter. I think he's a little bit better than what we had in Christian Fulton that last year. So I think if you have the rotation with him and Dante Jackson as your cornerback too, Heeb and Hart, hopefully everybody stays healthy and concussions are behind Cam Hart, and just kind of see what happens there. So I would love to go get Russell Douglas. If we don't invest more in the cornerback position, that is a huge area of concern for me going into the year. Guard. Obviously, we need to invest in guard. So whether you want to invest in center or if the plan is to have Zion play some center, I don't know. We need to get at least one guy, preferably two, if that's the plan. So we'll see how it kind of shakes out. I think that'll be really telling at what the plan is for center, and we'll kind of go from there. If they pick up two starter-level guards, I do expect Zion and Bozeman to compete for the center position. Wouldn't be surprised if that's the why that they extended Bozeman to a multi-year contract, but we'll find all that out as time goes forward. Will Fry's obviously the hot name. When he played incredibly well, but obviously had the injury this year. And so I would love to go out and get Fries. I would also love Tevin Jenkins. Either one of them really moves the needle quite a bit for me, so I'd be thrilled to see either one of those guys. Third big name is Mekhi Becton. I'm out on it. If the other guys are gone, I'd be fine with the signing. I'd be happy about the signing at that point. But with the other two guys on the table, I really don't want to see it. Obviously, he went to Philly in the Stoutland offensive line system and succeeded. Surprise, surprise, everybody does. He had very little success. It reminds me a lot of Patrick Queen going to the Ravens. Once he got better compliments around him and playing in that scheme, he played very well. And then he left because he didn't have homeboy who came from the Bears and spacing on his name. But either way, your surroundings matter. And when Mekhi Becton was on an elite offensive line, in an elite offensive line scheme, he played well. I don't see him moving and continuing that success. Tight end, Juwan Johnson's my number one. Evan Ingram's my number two. I don't think Evan Ingram fits the scheme as much. And I'm still holding out hope that we get a Colston Loveland in the draft, or a Harold Fannin or something. I just don't see Evan Ingram fitting what this offense wants to do. Now, depending on what's available at wide receiver, if we go make any signings, anything like that, I'm a little bit more inclined just to use him more as a weapon. But Juwan Johnson, I think, has played really well over the past couple of years. I think he wins vertically really well. I would be really happy to see him in this offense. I just think it makes a little bit more sense. I think he'd be a little bit more cost effective of a signing. And even regardless, again, Juwan Johnson's gone. I'm all in for Evan Ingram. I would love Mark Andrews or Dallas Goedert. I would love to trade for Dallas Goedert, a future fourth. I would love to go get Mark Andrews at any cost. Like, obviously, come on, take it with a grain of salt, but any cost. That's reasonable. Mark Andrews moves the needle a ton for me, so that is my number one preference. But if we're just talking free agent signings, it's going to be Juwan Johnson and then Evan Ingram as a possibility. Now, again, two tight ends on the market. They're going to go decently quick, I would think. So hopefully we can address those positions tomorrow. I do think edge is still a need. Chauncey Golston, I think, could be a good fit as a rotational guy. Charles Omenihu, I think, could be a really good fit as a rotational guy. I just think they're both going to be really expensive. So I don't know what we do there. Bud Dupree with Mack and Thule, like, I like it at the top, but we get very thin very fast if anybody gets hurt. And so I would love to bring in and fortify the edge room a little bit more. I don't know if Troyan Shoyinka is still a free agent. I would actually like that. But either way, I do worry about the depth at edge, but obviously if I wanted to sign just about one person from all of these position groups, edge becomes difficult. We just invested $18 million in Khalil Mack. So we'll see. Now, wide receiver. Now that's the topic of conversation. We whiffed on it, and we knew that this was a bad receiver class, and we knew that the big guys were going to go. Good feeling that T was going to get tagged. Sure enough, he did. I have a feeling people are probably fielding trade offers for him right now, given their situation, but had a feeling he was going to get tagged, and he did. DK Metcalf, we missed out on. The price was high. $150 million is crazy high. I did not expect him to get a 5-year. I was thinking like a 3. And then obviously Devontae Adams. Hard to say no to Sean McVay when you're a wide receiver. I get it. I'd want to avoid Greg Roman too. So, I mean, it just kind of depends on which route, where you wanted to go afterward. Darius Slayton was the big one for me still. I just think he had the most upside. $12 million a year is about $1 million to $2 million less than I thought he was going to get, and he stayed with the Giants, who hate him. So it doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever. Sorry, Darius Slayton. Be a Giant for life. So that leaves Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper. I'm out on Stephon Diggs, and it's not about the diva aspect. That is part of it, but that's not it going into my decision making at all. My decision making is purely based around the injury. Given his age, given the ACL injury, we don't know when he's going to come back. We don't know how he's going to come back. So I am good on Steph Diggs. I don't want to pay a receiver Steph Diggs money to wait and see what happens. Let the Dolphins do shit like that, like they do with OBJ. I'm good on that. Cooper Kupp and Keenan Allen are funny to me because we could get them both. It'd be wildly expensive. We can't actually, but if we did, we'd have the most Lad McConkey offense ever. Like, it would be the crispest route running that we'll never beat you downfield. Greg Roman would have to completely change his offense, which would be awesome because the deep shots aren't working without the protection. But it'd be awesome to just see us carve people up 8 to 10 yards at a time, let Herbert win with his brain, not necessarily his arm talent. Obviously, his arm talent would still be fitting it into tight windows and making elite, zippy little throws, but they'd be little throws. It'd be a bunch of 8 to 10 yards, and it'd be super fun for me. Just an elite carve you up type of offense, like Chip Kelly back at Oregon. Like, that's what it would feel like we're watching. The odds of that are very low. I think we go get Keenan. I really do. I'd love to have him back. It doesn't give us the burner that we need down the field. I don't know how we're going to fit that role. QJ can't fit that role. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I do think we go get Keenan back. That would be really nice for me. Amari Cooper, I think, makes a ton of sense schematically, but the years are showing for sure. Cooper Kupp is older than people realize. Obviously, the decline with the ankle injuries and everything else that he's had recently. So I still think that he has the juice to go make a difference. I have no idea what contract he would demand. I think staying in LA would be huge for him. So I don't know. I think we go get one of those guys. I think they're all pretty expensive, but you have to do something, right? Like, love my boy Keenan. It's a little bit more of the story and the emotion attached to it than I think the player. I still think he has juice. I still think he'd be a difference maker. I don't think he's going to be a 1,300-yard receiver for us, but don't need him to be. We just need third and Keenan. And the pressure that he would relieve off of Lad, interchangeable in the way that you can kind of line them up on the outside or inside, but it doesn't give us what Greg Roman wants to do in his offense, so I have no clue what their plan is at receiver at this point. Then last but not least, center. Like I mentioned, I mean, you could go address both guard positions and then have Zion and Bose compete for the center position. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route they go if they miss out on Andre James, but otherwise it's Andre James. I mean, who else is out there to be a capable starting center? It's rough. The landscape is rough, and we can't go in with with Bozeman as our starter if they don't plan on bringing Zion to center. Then I think you have to address center early, and I hate this center class. I get the small school kid. I'm spacing on his name, Zabel or something like that. I like him. I just don't like him at the pick. Is he going to fall to us in the second? Probably not. Is he worth it at 22? Not to me. Not to me at all. And so I think if you kind of addressed one of each of these positions, Jonathan Allen, Rasul Douglas, Will Fries or Tevin Jenkins, Juwan Johnson, probably have to ditch the edge position and address that a little bit in the draft and maybe just bring in some rotational guys. Keenan Allen or Cooper Kupp or Amari Cooper, one of those guys, as long as they come at a decent price. And Andre James, you get those guys, you fill out this roster pretty well. Now, obviously, you still want to draft some high-end talent, and you need that to be a little bit more competitive, but this rounds out the roster and lets us go truly best player available throughout. Now, are we pigeonholed at that roster of getting a back in the draft? Probably, but this is the draft to do it. Like, if you did something like this, oh, baby. Like, Colston Loveland at 22, you trade back because all the running backs are available. You grab a Trevion Henderson or a Dylan Sampson, depending on who you can find a trade back partner to. And then in this situation, I traded back up because I didn't want to lose out on Trey Harris. I'm incredibly high on Trey Harris. I think once you get out of those top couple, I don't really see the surefire-ness of the prospects, and that includes Matthew Golden. I don't see it being 100% surefire success rate type of guy, and so I would rather not invest in that super early. I would rather let someone fall to us a little bit. In this case, I got up to get Trey Harris. And so are we going to invest all 3 picks in offense right away? Probably not. The odds are low. You'll probably end up getting a freaking defensive tackle in there. But, I mean, what my point is there's still a way to fix the team. Are we going to be... Do we have the stars? Are we going to be star-studded and really go out there and light things up every week? No, we've passed that point, but we can still round out this roster and make it a heck of a lot more talented than we were last year. The floor of this team should be elevated with an offseason like this. So we'll see how it shakes out. Let me know what you guys think. We're all going to be in for a wild ride tomorrow, I'm sure. Day 2 of free agency is going to really thin the herd. And so hopefully we get our guys and go Bolts. If you liked this video, please give me a follow on Twitter or X at Erdman Chargers, shown on the graphic here, or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Nature's Calls Pod.